Assalamu alaikum. This is the microeconomics theory course directed to fourth year economics section. Let's continue chapter 3 in our textbook, income elasticity of demand and Engel curve. Let's start by the income elasticity of demand for a commodity, let's say X, and it measures the responsiveness of demand for commodity X resulting from changing the income of the consumer by 1%. How could we measure the income elasticity of demand? It equals the percentage change in the quantity demanded for good X over the percentage change in the income of the consumer. The point elasticity measured by change in quantity demand for X over the change in the consumer income times the initial income of the consumer divided by the initial quantity consumed of good X. This is the formula of income elasticity of demand. The value could be positive or negative according to the type of the commodity. If it is positive, so we have normal good. If the value is positive but greater than 1, then our product is luxury. And if the value of income elasticity of demand is positive but less than 1, then the product is necessary. On the other side, if the value of income elasticity of demand is negative, so we have an inferior good. Now turn to the Engel curve. Here we have to know what's meant by Engel curve and what is the relationship between Engel curve and income elasticity of demand. First of all, the Engel curve relates the changes in the quantity demanded for a commodity to changes in the real income of the consumer. And as we said before in chapter 2, that the Engel curve is usually drawn backward bending. What does it mean? It means that as consumers' income increased, first the demand for a commodity increased faster than the increase in real income. After that, as real income continues to increase, the demand for a commodity increases at a decreasing rate until there is a zero increase. After that, the demand actually decreases with further increases in real income. In fact, the Engel curve is useful for measuring and explaining the income elasticity of demand. Let's see now how could we measure the income elasticity of demand on each point on the Engel curve. Let's start now by measuring the income elasticity of demand at a point on the Engel curve, let's say point R. First of all, we have to remember the formula of income elasticity of demand, which is equal the change in quantity demanded for X over change in the consumer income times the initial consumer income divided by the initial quantity consumed of the commodity. First of all, we have to draw a line that is tangent to the point R, and as you notice from the graph that this line intersects the horizontal axis at the positive side. Okay, at point R, the income is measured by the distance OA, which the same as RS, and the quantity consumed in this case is OS. The first part of income elasticity of demand, which is change in quantity of X over change in income, could be written as follows. A change in quantity demanded for X, it is the distance TS, and the change in income, as we said before, it is OA, which is equals to RS, the distance RS. The initial level of income, which is OA, it is the same as SR, and the initial quantity demanded for X, which is OS. In this case, income elasticity of demand at point R could be measured by the distance between the perpendicular and the tangent TS over the distance between the perpendicular and the origin OS. Okay, TS over OS gives me value less than 1, which is mean that income elasticity of demand would be less than 1 when the tangent to the curve intersects the horizontal axis at the positive sides. By the same token, let's measure the income elasticity of demand at a point M, which is a point on the Engel curve. First of all, we have to draw a line tangent to the Engel curve at point M. We find that the tangent to the Engel curve intersects the point of origin. So applying the previous rule, the income elasticity of demand at point M equals the distance between the perpendicular and the tangent, which is OT, over the distance between the perpendicular and the origin, which is also OT. Since the two distances are equal, hence, in this case, the income elasticity of demand equals 1, which is mean that when the tangent to the Engel curve intersects the point of origin, in this case, the income elasticity of demand equals 1. Now let's move to another point on the Engel curve and show how the income elasticity of demand could be measured. For instance, point N. In this case, we have to draw a line that is tangent to the Engel curve at point N. In this case, we found that the tangent to the Engel curve intersects the x-axis at the negative sign. Applying the previous rule of income elasticity of demand, the value of income elasticity of demand at point N could be measured as the distance between the perpendicular and the tangent point, GL, over the distance between the perpendicular and the origin, which is OL. In this case, we find that at point L, the value of income elasticity of demand is greater than 1. So we conclude that when the tangent to the Engel curve intersects the x-axis at the negative sign, the income elasticity of demand tends to be greater than 1. Finally, the turning point, point D. How could we measure the income elasticity of demand at point D? As we said before, we have to draw a line that is tangent to the Engel curve at point D and apply the rule. We find that the value of numerator equals 0. Why? Because there is no difference between perpendicular and the tangent. And divided 0 by the distance between the perpendicular and the origin, which is OV, we find that income elasticity of demand at point D tends to be 0. So far, we could conclude that each point on the Engel curve has different value of income elasticity of demand. For instance, at point N, income elasticity of demand is greater than 1. Moving to point M, we find it equals 1. Moving to point R, we find that the value of income elasticity of demand is less than 1. And at the turning point, which is point D, the value of income elasticity of demand equals 0. After that, we find that income elasticity of demand has got a negative sign indicating that commodity would be inferior to the consumer. Try to study this part before going to the next lecture, as we will solve some problems relating to the part of income elasticity of demand and Engel curve. And if you have any questions, contact me. Good luck.